Hi there, I'm Peter Millard and this is 10 Minute Workshop, where 10 minutes of the workshop is never enough, it's never 10 minutes, and it's never 10 minutes wasted. In the workshop this week, well, I've got a quick tip for you and a quick jig, which is going to save you time. It's coming up next. You know, if you do a lot of shelving like I do, you end up doing a lot of softwood lipping on the front of an MDF shelf. It gives a bit of extra strength and it generally makes it sort of nicer and easier to look at and handle. Now when I make softwood lipping, I cut it so that it's just slightly thicker than the shelf, than the thickness of the shelf. So you get this slight overhang that you then have to trim back. Now you can do this the old-fashioned way with a hand plane, but if you've got a stack of them to do, that can be a bit of a drag. So I've come up with a way using a router to trim all that back. Now I'm using an old router that I've been able to dedicate to the job. And what I've done is, through my British viewers might recognise the brand. It is indeed a Performance Power Pro, which is an own brand of B&Q stores here in the UK. They're a bit like a Home Depot. This was my first ever router, the first router that I ever bought. I've used a few of friends, but this is the first one I bought when I first started doing this for a living. And I've got to say, you know, it's not very good, but it's not terrible. And I did plenty of work with this. This cut many a worktop for a kitchen. So yeah, don't knock them. Anyway, I've dedicated it to this little trimming jig because it's kind of a bit surplus now. And all I've done is I've taken the base off it and I've countersunk the screws into there. And the base is just a piece of 12mm birch ply, so that it doesn't quite come up to where the cutter is. And the reason for that is so that we can effectively plunge the router to below the level of the base and get it flush with the top of the workpiece. Then, when it comes across to cut the material, the base isn't in the way. Now when it comes to making the plunge to set the depth of cut, it may be tempting to go flush with the surface. I think that's just a little bit risky. You know, the whole thing can be a little bit tippy, so you do need to be quite careful with it. And what I usually do is take something like an old filler knife and just take the blade, so it's, you know, I don't know, no idea how thick that is actually, I could probably find out, but just so that it's a fraction of a millimetre proud, and then you can sand that back easily with a sander, but you take the meat of it away with the router. Ideally, of course, you'd have a side fence with this, but you know what, I can't for the life of me find the side fence for this router. I know I've got it somewhere because I set this up specifically to do this job, but I just can't find it. So I'm just going to show you how it works freehand. I'm absolutely not advocating this, that you do this, just so that you see that it does actually work. But you really, you know, obviously with a side fence, you 2 passes and you're done, especially if you can get a micro adjusting side fence, or just a wider cutter. But you know, anyway, we'll give that a go and I'll show you how it works. So again, just so we're very clear, I'm not suggesting in any way that this is best practice, and I would normally only ever do this with a side fence for complete control, but just to show you this, it does actually work. I'm just going to freehand this, okay? So that's it. It gives you not a perfect finish by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly good enough for you to then just take that back with a sander to really clean things up the way you would anyway. The best part of it, of course, is that it takes away the bulk of the material of the overhang using equipment that you've already got with minimal cost to yourself. It's a quick, easy tip, works really well for me, and I hope it works for you. I hope you've enjoyed this in the workshop today. If you did, give it a thumbs up, share it amongst your friends, and please do consider subscribing, then you'll be notified whenever I put up something new. But in the workshop this week, that's everything for now, and I'll see you next time. Take care.